Today, we become legends.
Not all heals in Smite are created equal. Some heal over time, some burst heal, some are great healing, some have almost no healing, some are honest heals that just do their job, some have other crazy bonus effects. Well, today we rank all of Smite's healing abilities against each other in a tier list format. So quickly before we start, this list is only for ability healing, so anything that is affected by like Cadicia's Shield and Rod of Asclepius, but it's not going to count lifesteal abilities, regen, any kind of stuff like that. And also, this is very important, I'm ranking these abilities solely on their ability to heal, not on any of their other bonus effects. Some heals in the game will heal a tiny bit but then have other super powerful effects tied to the ability, and it would be a bit unfair to rank them very high on a heals tier list when really their other effects are just very strong and they're not actually that good of a heal, if you get me. So yeah, I'm going to be ranking them based on solely their ability to heal. But with that said, these are the tiers. So we have top tier team healing, because team healing is almost always better than self healing, so I've separated them a little bit. So top tier team heals, top tier self heals, decent team heals, and then good self healing, decent self healing, meh self healing, and the bad category is like it can be open to team healing as well, but I think it's mostly going to be self heals, just heals that really don't heal very much at all or aren't very useful in many situations. So yeah, other than the fact that I've split it into like there's two team heal categories and the rest of self healing can be a bit confusing, but other than that, the tiers are pretty self-explanatory. So let's just jump straight in with Rat's Evergreen Acorn, which I think is a top tier self heal. So this Acorn is, I believe, 7% healing on all of your abilities, so it's effectively like giving a big heal to all of your abilities, which is why I think it's top tier. Obviously, it is tied to an item that you have to buy, which is very unique. None of these other ones, aside from obviously Rat's other Acorn that heals him, are like tied to an item where you have to buy them. It's more just like you rank up the ability, but I feel like this has to be in the top tier self-healing category. Moving on to Achilles' Radiant Glory. This is similar in a way to Rat's Acorn, actually, in that like you use it and it gives your other abilities like a bit of healing and stuff. I think this is just good though. The healing isn't quite as crazy as it is on the Acorn, and of course, like I said, I'm not taking into account the other effects that this gives, like power and protections. I'm just considering the healing, and so I think it's just a good self-heal. Arpwash's Hollow Ground, this is his passive, where it heals from eating the corpses. This one's a bit of a weird one because it can be incredibly powerful, but it's also really situational. Like in team fights, it's kind of very hard to get off a big heal with this unless you're just like throwing corpses at a wall and healing with it. So I think I'll just go with good. Like this could be considered top tier in like healing out of fight, like out of combat style, things like that, but in terms of like an in-combat heal, it's not very good, so I think I'll just leave it in good for now. Amaterasu's Divine Presence is decent. Once again, this is the last time I'll mention this, but I just want to drill it into your brain. I'm not considering the fact that you get the speed aura and the power aura, so just the fact that this ability heals, I think it's just decent. I'm using Cab's Hives. I kind of want to put these in bad. Like, all they do is heal, like, I think it's 12 health per second, which in reality is almost nothing. It's basically a regen ability, but it is classed as ability healing, so I had to include it on this list. It's pretty bad. Alquang's Ultimate. So the heal is pretty good, but obviously it's on an incredibly long cooldown, and you also need to be executing people to get the heal from this, so I think I'll just put it in decent. Alquang's Sword passive. This is either met or decent. The healing you get from it's not that good, and you can only activate it like 3 times, and then I think it's a 20-second cooldown between activations, which is quite long on like a small heal, so I think I'll actually put this in meh. It's really not that good. Obviously it is a passive, so it makes sense for it not to be insane, but yeah. Aphrodite's Birds, I think I have to put these in top tier team healing, but they do only hit 2 people, so it makes me almost want to put it in just decent, because like the heal itself is super good, but you're only hitting yourself and one other ally, whereas like I think I want the top tier team heals to be like abilities that can heal the entire team really well, so I think I actually will put Aphro's Birds in just decent team healing. Arachne's Bite, so this is just a pretty decent self-heal. I don't think anyone's going to say this is crazy, it just heals you a little bit when you hit people. Arteo's Energy Surge, decent team heal. Obviously not as good as Aphrodite's in general, but you can hit more than 2 people with this. Basically this is just Arteo's one where like it's the cone, and if you hit enemies, you heal teammates that are nearby you. It's decent, but it's not amazing. Arteo's 3, I think it's also decent, but once again this is a self-heal. You can't heal allies with Arteo's 3 in Druid stance. It's just a life tap thing where like it does a take damage and heals you. It's decent, it's nothing amazing. Bakasura's Eat Minion is actually a pretty powerful heal, and it is a burst heal, but the fact that it's situational and that you have to have like a jungle camp or a minion nearby or have ulted or whatever, I think I'm going to drop it down to decent because it is like conditional, whereas the other ones up here aren't as conditional. Baron's 2 is a decent team heal. It can obviously hit many allies if they're like near the explosion or near Baron when he casts it, but the heal itself isn't amazing, and I'm not considering the other effects like the slow immunity and stuff like that. Bellona's Scourge is an interesting one. The heal itself is pretty small, but it's obviously repeatable with effectively no cooldown, so I almost want to put it in good, I think. Yeah, I think good is where this belongs, because like the heal itself is very small. It's like I think 45 or I think maybe 55 every 3 autos, but obviously it's repeatable. There's no cooldown on it. You can use this pretty much whenever you want as long as you keep your Scourge weapon out, so I think it deserves to be up here. Kawazor's Bats is like pretty meh, honestly. It's on a massive delay, which isn't great for healing. Usually with healing, you want it to be like quick and on no delay. This is on a delay, which makes it not quite as good, and the heal itself isn't amazing either. I'm going to put this in there. Camazot's Devour, however, is a lot better. I think potentially good for this because it's not on much of a delay, it's just a tiny little jump, and if you hit multiple targets, like if you hit the enemy archers or whatever with this, you can heal a lot from it. So I think being up here is pretty worthy for this. And this is Camazot's passive, while he drinks on the pools. Once again, another very interesting one because it's conditional, but when the conditions are right for this and you have a lot of pulls, like in solo or whatever, this can be incredibly powerful. So I think I'm going to put it in good. It's very situational, though. It can be terrible and feel like you're getting nothing from it, or it can be like lane winning. Cerberus heal is terrible. I mean, no, maybe it's meh. Like, it's not bad because, like, obviously if you're against a healer like an Aphro or Hell or whatever and they're healing around you, you're going to get a decent amount from this. But in reality, because I'm not considering the fact that it's an anti-heal, I'm just thinking about how much it heals you, it's probably not going to be that much. It requires the enemy team to have healing. Thinking about it, I'm going to move it down to bad, actually, just on the fact that it's so situational. Like, really, for you to get a lot of healing off of Serb passive, the enemy team are going to need to have several heals, or like team heals, and really most games don't have that, so I think bad is probably where this deserves to be. Shaxx heal is decent. It's pretty delayed, as in like it's obviously a heal over time. You're not getting the full healing up front, so it can't be used to like burst heal out of range of like a Scylla ultimate or whatever like that, but it's very good for sustaining in solo, and just overall it's a pretty solid heal. Changa's 3 is a decent team heal. The healing itself is very small on this ability, but it can hit your entire team if they group up around you, which is pretty reasonable to do, so I think decent team heal is where it should be. Chiron's passive, see, this is why I was thinking maybe I should have had 3 tiers for team heals, because this is not on the level of these other 4, not even close, but this is where it has to be, I guess. I mean, Chiron's passive is like the very bottom of the decent team heals, because obviously it can heal your team, Chiron passive can hit your teammates, but it's a very minuscule heal. It's not really going to do anything, to be honest. Kronos' 2 isn't amazing. It's like 1.5% per second. I think it lasts like 5 seconds, so it's like a decent percentage of your health, but in reality it's a very delayed heal and it's not that much in total. I think I'm probably going to put this one in meh. Like, the main purpose of Chronos 2 really isn't to heal you most of the time. Like, it's more of just, if you are low, you might choose the healing quadrant instead of one of the other ones. It's not really a primary healing ability at all. This is Cthulhu's Ultimate 3, the one that, like, heals his entire team. I think it's a top tier team heal. Like, even if you disregard the other stats this gives, like the power and stuff, this is just a really good team heal. Like, it's the AoE on it is absolutely enormous. You can cover entire team fights with it very easily, and you heal your whole team. And like, granted, you do damage yourself as the Cthulhu player, but usually that's fine, and you can give your team some massive heals. So I think this is going to be our first top tier team heal. Cupid is a decent team heal. Obviously it's a little bit better than Chiron's, which would be like, as I said, the very bottom of this tier, but yeah, Cupid's heal's fine. Like, it obviously it gets mana restored if he's healing teammates with it, so it incentivizes him to go for that team healing aspect, but this could also just be a good self heal as well. Like, the amount the hearts heal when you do have the passive up is actually very underrated, so I think this deserves to be up here. Erlang Shen's ultimate heal, I think I'm going to put in good. It's not quite top tier for 2 reasons. One, it's incredibly delayed, and sometimes, especially if you like jungle Erlang Shen, which is its most popular role right now, you can get bursted down before you get the full heal through. But then also it's just the fact that it's an ultimate, it's on a 90-second cooldown to get that heal, and obviously it loses some points for being on such a long cooldown, so I think being in good is fine for this. For some reason I put in both of Fafnir's 2s. They're going to be in the same tier because they're the same healing, like it's just different effects, but they're the same healing, so this is like a decent self-heal. It's maybe even meh, honestly. It's probably meh. Like, the heal on this really isn't that great, and for those of you that for some reason still think Fafnir heals the target you put the 2 on, you don't. It's a self-heal only. For some reason a lot of people think that I guess it makes sense if, like, you know, you're buffing them, you're probably healing them as well, but it only heals Fafnir, actually, this ability. It doesn't heal the ally that you put it on, so it is a self-heal, and I think it deserves to be down here. Guan Yu's heal is top tier team healing. It can easily hit the entire team. The radius on it is pretty large. It's on a very low cooldown. It's really good for like out of combat healing, but even decent in combat as well. This one is just a very all-round top tier team heal. This is Hades Devour Souls. It's a good self-heal. Obviously this is exacerbated by the fact that Hades always builds Bancroft's Tower and Lifesteal and stuff like that. You think this ability is healing more than it is. It's really not that insane. Like, I think when a lot of people see Hades 2 and 3 their wave and heal 50% of his health, they think, oh, this should definitely be a top tier heal, right? But often it's like maybe half the healing is coming from this ability and half is coming from Bancroft's Tower and his other Lifesteal and stuff like that. So this heal gets boosted in a lot of people's eyes. The heal itself is good, but not top tier in my opinion. Hell's 1 is a decent team heal. It's kind of like Afro's Burst in that it's only going to heal you and one other target, so it's not quite going to be top tier or anything like that, but you can heal your team with it. It can be used as a self heal if you're damaging an enemy or whatever. It's pretty good. Hell's Inspire, top tier team heal though. This is similar to Guan's in that it's like a big AoE team heal that can heal your whole team. It's probably a little worse than Guan's in that it's not a burst heal. It's a heal over time for your teammates, but a burst heal for Hell, which is a bit strange. But that was their way of balancing it, essentially. But honestly, you can't really argue that this is not a top tier team heal. It's big, AoE, heals your entire team. You can't go wrong. Mitigate Wounds is a top tier self heal. Don't even try and argue this with me. This is what makes Hercules so incredibly broken. Also, it's partly on the fact that you can pull someone into your team and just one-shot them, but this just allows Hercules to get away with so much of the stuff that no other warrior or support or whatever would get away with, and this is just deserving of a top tier self-heal spot. I don't think anyone's going to argue this. Horus 3 is a decent team heal. Obviously you can heal, I'm not sure if it's just your target and you, or if it does an AoE heal around the target. Because if it's an AoE heal around the target, you can technically hit the whole team with it, but the healing amount is small, and you're realistically not going to heal more than 2 or 3 people with this anyway, so I think decent team heal is what it should be. Isis, another decent team heal. This is kind of weird because obviously its main purpose usually isn't for the healing, and obviously it does need charging up as well, so it's basically got to be used in combat. You never use Isis for out of combat healing or anything like that. And while it can be a decent team heal, it does have some setup parameters that are required for it, and it's also on a very long cooldown, so I think decent is what it should be. Kali's passive is obviously a top tier self heal. I don't think anyone's going to argue this with me. Obviously this is situational in that you need to be able to sort of land a kill and get in there, and if you don't land the kill it's obviously a lot less powerful, but in the right situation this is what makes Kali able to 1v5 teams. You can't really argue that it's not top tier. This is Mulan's 2, the spear thrust, once it's ranked up. Obviously, with the precondition that it's ranked up, I almost want to put this in top tier because this really allows Mulan to sustain super hard with the double procs on it. But I think it's just good. I'm not going to quite say it's top tier because I don't think it's on the level of Rat Acorn, Mitigate Wounds, or Kali passive. But it's definitely in the upper end of the good self heals in my opinion. Nice 2 is decent. The fact that you can heal off the weaves is the reason I'm putting it here. If there wasn't the weave healing and it only healed a little bit off the target you hit, it would be in meh. But yeah, since you can heal off the weaves, which is sometimes relevant in certain situations, I think decent is fine for this. Nerjaz 2, also decent. It just heals you a little bit. I think it heals more based on how much of your passive you have or something like that. But yeah, it's just decent. Olaron's Consecration is technically a team heal. You can group up for this, but it doesn't really heal very much. It's kind of similar to Horus 3 or whatever. Technically a team heal, but really you're not using it as a team heal all that much, and when you are, it doesn't heal too much. I just realized Rat's Acorn is right at the end here. It probably should have been with the other one, but yeah, Rat's other Acorn I will probably put in good self-healing. It's a lot less powerful than Evergreen. It's only 3% instead of 7%, so it definitely deserves to be one tier below that. Moving on to Persephone though. Persephone's plants are a bit weird. Obviously, if you put them down and immediately activate them, you can get a heal off of it, which is pretty nice. I'm not a big Persephone player, so I'm not actually too sure how much this impacts the game, so maybe let me know down below if you're a big Persephone player, if this heal is really relevant for you when you're playing, or if it's more of a side thing. For me, I think I'll put it in good though. You can have a lot of active plants at once. They're on a pretty low cooldown. They don't cost too much mana, and you can just heal off of them repeatedly. That seems pretty powerful in my limited experience with Persephone, so I'll put it in good. Raz Solar Blessing, another top tier team heal. This probably isn't quite as good as the 3 I have up here, I think, but it's definitely way better than all these decent team heals. Obviously, Ra is one of the primary healers in Smite, and this is his only healing ability. It's super insane for out of combat healing on sieges, or if a team fight breaks up after a couple of kills, you can group up, heal from Ra, and then go back in kind of thing. Or heal up before you do fire and things like that. And it's decent in combat healing as well, but it really shines when you're using it out of combat or using it to siege or whatever, but it's a very good team heal. Raven's 3 is meh. It's, I think it's 70 or something, or 90 base healing. It doesn't even scale with physical power, so even when you're building Raven full damage, you're getting no extra benefit from this, which I think is weird. I think they should probably make this have a little bit of physical power scaling, just 20 or 30% or something to incentivize him to build power, but it's kind of bad as it is. Set's ultimate is top tier. This, much like Kali, is the core part of Set's kit that allows him to sort of play the way he does and survive. You get big burst healing, I think it can be sometimes upwards of 200 healing per activation of this, and when you've got that mega uncapped attack speed going, it can just be completely insane how much you heal from this ability. And like I said, it really enables Set's whole playstyle, the fact that you can heal so much from this. And I see a lot of people not even buying anti-heal against Set. You really should be, because this is a very powerful heal. Sobex 3 is decent. It's pretty good for sustaining in lane. You can get a little bit of healing in team fights or whatever, but it's only a small amount per target hit. He is a Guardian, so it's not amazing. Summon Kong Somersault Cloud, I'll probably put this in good. Obviously, it's on a very long cooldown with being an ultimate and stuff like that, but it does heal you a pretty good amount and takes you out of combat while you're doing that healing, which is pretty important, so I think that's a pretty good place for it. Sylvanus' Wisps, probably top tier team heal. These are like, this is on the bottom end, I think. This is like almost into being a decent team heal territory, but it's a pretty wide AoE and can heal your entire team, which is very important for these top tier team heals, but obviously it's going to heal less than these ones up here. Still though, I think it's worthy of being up here. Terra's Monolith is a decent team heal. The overall healing that you can get from this is actually very solid, but almost all the time you're not getting the full benefit from this, especially in team fighting. Whereas like a lot of these top tier team heals are relatively quick and you can get the full benefit pretty easily. Terra's Monolith lasts 10 seconds and you have to stand not still, but like in a very small area for 10 seconds. That's not really going to happen in a team fight, so I think decent is fine for this. Terra's Ultimate, however, I think I might put in top tier. Like, the healing you get from this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, not only does this heal 300 plus 30% of Terra's magical power for each target once you break the 4 stones as like a burst heal, which is super solid in team fights. It also has a heal over time while it's active, which adds up to even more healing. And obviously, it's relatively easy to hit your entire team with this, or at least most of your team. Like, you're realistically going to be hitting like 4 teammates with this most of the time. And the sheer amount of healing that this adds up to over the course of the ability, I think it definitely deserves to be in the top tier. Thana Scythe is good. Obviously, it heals based on damage dealt, so when you're building full damage Thana and this thing's hitting for like 500 damage, it heals for 70% of that. That's going to be a solid self-heal. Thana's passive is a bit of a weird one, because I said I wouldn't consider other effects, but you sort of have to consider the fact that Thana passive makes his abilities cost health, because otherwise it would be insanely broken if it didn't. But I think I'll just put it in good. Like, it keeps Thanos sustained up in the jungle, allows him to sort of make plays that other gods don't make. And also, when you do heal off of a god, it can be like a pretty big burst heal as well. Actually, thinking about that, I think I should move Thana heal up to top tier. Like, mainly on the god kill thing, because like, I'm not sure how much the percentage is, but I know you can heal like big bursts of like 200 to 300 health from killing squishies, which is actually a really big deal and almost similar to what like Kali and Set do in a way, and sort of like enables his playstyle. And if you do end up killing a tank, I think you can heal upwards of 500 health, which is kind of crazy. And also it has like the minion kills and stuff that allows you to just sustain up throughout the match. So I think top tier is good for this, but it's on the lower end of top tier. Tier's Power Cleave. I almost don't want to put it in top tier, but can I really not put it in top tier? Once again, I think this is a lower end of top tier along with Thana. This is like, would be like upper end of good or like bottom end of top tier, but Tier's Power Cleave in guard stance is just stupid, dude. Like, the cooldown on it is like 8 seconds or something dumb. It might even be lower than that with full CDR. And it heals for like 360, and you just press it on the wave over and over again, and it makes Tier completely unkillable in the solo lane laning phase. Anyone who's played against a Tier in solo will know how powerful this ability is, and will probably agree that it deserves to be up here. For mana ults, I think it's just good, because it's on a very long cooldown, but it is a pretty solid heal. I think it's like 1% per second, and his ult lasts a good while. Yamudja's Mending Waters is a decent team heal. It's burst healing, which is always good, but I'm pretty sure you could only hit 2 targets with this. Unless maybe you can hit more. I'm not entirely sure. I'm really not a big Yamudja player. This might be able to hit more than 2 targets, but even if it can, it's not an amazing heal. Like, definitely not deserving of top tier, but I think this is like in the upper end of decent, I would say. Yamudja, so this is Yamudja's passive, which is basically representative of her healing auto attacks. This is just bad. Like, I hate putting it here because it's obviously not really comparable in any way to all of these other heals. It's just like a tiny, it's almost like hives in a way. Like, they're not really comparable, but it does class as ability healing. But it's a tiny amount of healing, really. Like, obviously they couldn't make it a lot of healing because it has no cooldown. It's from her basic attacks and stuff like that, but I think this is just where it has to be, unfortunately. And finally, Jonqui's 2 is a decent self-heal. You can heal 3 times off of it, which is a decent amount of healing as it adds up, but it's not amazing. And that's the healing tier list. Let me know your thoughts on it down below. Obviously, the format I did was a little strange, but I really wanted to separate team healing from self-healing, because if I didn't, then the entire top tiers would just be filled with all of the team heals, because the team heals are obviously way better than the self-heals because they can hit multiple people and stuff like that. So I wanted to kind of separate them a little bit. So basically, these are your like top 12 heals, which are like the team heals and the self heals, and then it kind of separates it on the way down. It's a little bit weird, but I felt like this was the best way to kind of represent how powerful all of these are, like instead of it just being like a bunch of team heals filling up the entire top tier. So let me know your thoughts down below if you think some of these should change or whatever, and if you have any other ideas for like kind of abstract tier lists like this one where I rank like certain types of abilities or gods or whatever, then let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys later. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.